Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'd like to bid you welcome from wherever you're watching or listening. Welcome to the Nerdivergent channel. I am your host, Nerdivergent. Today, we will be taking a look at the movie Almost an Angel, and I'll be sharing my thoughts on this movie and how I think it's relevant for today's audiences and a recommendation for you to watch. Let's get into it. Almost an Angel is a 1990 comedy starring Paul Hogan as Terry Dean, Linda Kozlowski as Rose Gardner, and Elias Koteas as Steve Gardner, and of course Charlton Heston playing the role of God, because who else could have pulled it off at the time? Terry Dean is a thief who winds up in the penitentiary, serving a sentence for robbery. Within the first few minutes, we see that he is a genius-level wizard when it comes to electronics, with the ability to take care of just about any electronics problem that comes up. After completing the tasks the guards have set for him, Terry goes to the common room, where he meets with some fellow inmates. They begin discussing his upcoming parole and the fact that he will soon be leaving the prison. Terry overhears an argument over which channel to have the TV on, and he decides to use his razor, which has been modified into a remote control, to change the channel back to where it was originally. At this point, he is debating whether or not he should go straight. He believes he is well known to the police that it would be impossible to keep a low profile on jobs that with high electronic complexity where his skills would make him a prime suspect. After deciding to change his approach to how he would hit his marks, Terry starts scouting locations for easier targets, where he can use his remote control to manipulate the situation to his benefit. We then see Terry leaving the penitentiary, only for him to turn around and using his remote to create havoc there once again. Once out in the world, we notice that he hasn't exactly made the firm decision to become a productive member of society. He has more or less decided to become a smarter criminal by changing his modus operandi. Terry begins putting his new plan into motion by using his electronic skills and charm to find unique opportunities where people would not immediately suspect him as the person responsible. This is where the movie really starts showing us that Terry is not a violent criminal or even a particularly mean-spirited one. He is more of a mischievous thief who thinks of the world as a large machine. And if he could figure out the wiring, then he can make it do whatever he wants without hurting anyone along the way. He soon finds himself in a situation where he sees a little boy about to be hit by a car. Without thinking, Terry runs out and pushes him out of the way. This is the first major moment where we see that underneath all of his criminal instincts, he does have a decent heart. Unfortunately for Terry, saving the boy results in him being hit by the car instead. This is where the film takes its big supernatural turn. Terry wakes up in what appears to be heaven, or at least a waiting room version of heaven, where he meets God, played by Charlton Heston. Again, this is one of those casting choices where the movie clearly understood exactly what it was doing. If you're going to have God show up in a lighthearted comedy and explain the rules of the universe to Paul Hogan, Charlton Heston is about as direct as you can get without the clouds parting in real life, while also giving the movie room for a wink and a nod jokes later on. God tells Terry that his life is not quite finished and that he is being sent back with a purpose. Terry does not fully understand what is going on, and his reaction to the whole situation is to approach it with the same confused confidence that he brings to most problems. God presents his authority in a language Terry can understand by saying he is his new parole officer. When Terry asks if he can lie to him, God simply replies, "You can try." This sets up with the doubt and self-reflection that Terry has to deal with. He has been a thief, an electronics expert, and a prison troublemaker. But now he's being told that he might have to act like an angel, which is not exactly something you can learn from a handbook in the prison library. When Terry returns to Earth, he begins to believe that he may actually be on a mission from God after botching his new scheme. The problem is that Terry is still Terry, so his idea of doing good is not always clean, simple, or legal. He tries to help people, but he does it with the same bag of tricks that got him in trouble in the first place. This creates a lot of comedy because Terry is attempting to be a holy man while still thinking like a con man. He refers to his Bible for guidance, but while trying to put it into practice, he gets some of the details wrong, creating mischief several times along the way. Eventually, Terry crosses paths with Steve Gardner and his sister Rose. Rose is kind and patient, while Steve is dealing with his own struggles. This gives Terry a more personal reason to try to be better. He begins spending time with them and starts to see that helping them is not just about pulling out a clever trick or outsmarting somebody. Sometimes it means actually being present, caring about what happens, and not immediately looking for the angle that benefits you the most. With his background, Terry sees the struggles these two are having with their shelter and begins to help in his own way. This is where the movie starts leaning into the idea that Terry may not be as hopeless as he first appears. He has not been transformed overnight into a perfect person, and the movie is smart enough not to pretend that he has. Instead, he is someone who has spent most of his life using his intelligence for selfish purposes, and now he is being forced to consider what would happen if he used those same talents for someone other than himself. The movie continues to give us more glimpses into how Terry can be rehabilitated, becoming a better man and someone who is respected by true friends without needing to lie or take from others to get ahead. This is where he learns the hardest lesson: giving without taking and without the expectation of getting something in return. This is where I will leave it, as to not give too much away. I really like this movie for that moral, because it is something that as a society we don't necessarily do anymore or even recognize anymore. We're always expecting something in return. But the kindness you can show to another person or an animal and the ability to give love without condition is a beautiful sentiment that I think we need to get back to, not only in society, but filmmaking. And this movie, I think, really encapsulates that message and brings it to where it's easily understood for everyone. Now, you're probably wondering at this point in the video, would I recommend this movie? I would highly recommend this movie because it's family friendly and it has positive views. It doesn't preach, it just shows by example. And it is something that I think we can all take something positive from. Now, with that said, we'll see y'all at the next one. Take care.